Bianca Belair versus Bayley. That is the Extreme Rules match. But is Bianca Belair losing control now of her Raw Women's Championship? We're going to talk about that and a lot more today in this episode of WrstlXtra.
Yo, this is WrstlXtra. I'm your boy, A Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate. As always, joined by my tag team partner, Mix, the WrestleManiac. And of course, it is the first of the month. So we are here with our trio's teammate. That is Gerard Bonner.
Pow.
It is. We've actually been away for like 2 weeks. Life has happened and we've just not been able to do a show for the last 2 weeks. So let's try and give a quick update as to what's happened. I mean, we now have the Acclaimed as new tag team champions over in AEW. Bobby Lashley is just doing stuff with Seth Rollins. We'll talk about that a little bit later.
We need to.
Jade Cargill is another defense, and we'll talk about that too. Like, there's been a few things that have been going on. We'll kind of try and give a roundup, but of course, the biggest thing we're talking about today is Extreme Rules, which is coming up this weekend, Saturday, I believe. WWE moving their pay-per-views to a Saturday night, which is nice because
to see it.
Watch it on a Sunday morning instead of trying to fit it in on a Monday. You know, it's nice.
You mean to tell me you're watching WWE instead of going to church?
Well, you know, Brian Danielson said being in the ring is his church. It's where he feels closest to God. So
come on.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
I'm just saying. I mean, the first sport ever mentioned in the Bible is wrestling. I'm just saying.
Oh, snap.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
Jacob wrestled an angel. Just saying. He didn't play football or basketball. I mean, so
wrestling is God's sport. So we're
absolutely.
I'm in the right place on a Sunday morning. With the WWE. Can't say nothing more. I mean, it's so good. Max put me on the spot there.
I know, right?
So, Extreme Rules. The biggest match that we can talk about is Bianca Belair versus Bayley for the Raw Women's Championship in a ladder match, which should be very interesting. Obviously, we've seen in the past Bianca Belair versus Bayley. I believe that was a Hell in a Cell.
Yes.
Yep. Which was a very good match. This has the potential to be very similar, as much as it's not with a cage involved. There's all sorts of stuff that could be involved other than just ladders, tables, and other stuff. You know, ladder matches are never that simple. Always other stuff involved. But the biggest question is Bianca Belair defending her championship? Will she regain control? Will she keep control of her Raw Women's Championship? Gerard, what do you think will happen to Ms. Belair come Saturday?
I think Bianca and Bayley are going to steal the show. I think they're going to absolutely steal the show for a few reasons. It's Bayley's first solo or singles pay-per-view match since she's returned. So she's got a lot. Yep. They're also touting this as the first ever women's title ladder match, which is kind of significant when you think about it, given all of the matches that have happened for the women's championship. There's never been a ladder match. And for these two to get that is massive. I will tell you that after Raw last night, it really has me on the fence. I really thought, and I still am leaning towards Bianca somehow still winning, barely, with some degree of controversy, something that happens that causes Bayley to kind of pull out another side of her, and they go to an even higher level for another match between these two. I think it's going to go down that way. Sure, Bianca could lose it now, but I think there may be a more significant time and place for her to lose it within the next month or two, maybe even in Saudi Arabia, perhaps, which would be a thing given the size of that particular card and that audience, which would, in my mind, lead to the War Games match, which I think they'll be on opposite sides for. So yeah, I think somehow, some way, by hook or by crook, Bianca leaves Extreme Rules still your Raw Women's Champion.
Mex, what do you say?
I think the opposite, but I am kind of still in that on the fence area. Like, I think that exactly like Gerard said, this is gonna be probably match of the night. It's the big ladder match that the women's division have never had, so you know they're gonna have a lot of emphasis on this. They're gonna try and obviously steal the show. They want to build Damage Control as obviously something massive. These guys, along with Judgment Day, were all over, probably them more than Judgment Day on Monday Night Show. They were all over the show. Like literally, like every other segment, it felt like, you know, these guys are on TV. And this is what the Raw Women's division has become now. Damage Control versus Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka. We're not really seeing nothing else. Again, Bayley's big solo match back, singles match back. I just feel like she's got to do it. This will punctuate Damage Control, punctuate everything they've been saying. I know they, you know, done the little mythical thing last night of carrying all the gold and you shouldn't touch the gold before the pay-per-view and all of that kind of stuff. But I think this is one way. Obviously, Bianca Belair is gold dust to the WWE. They can make her lose without being pinned. That visual of not pinning this person and protecting them and stuff. Yeah, it's a ladder match. She just gets taken out. And of course, like Gerard was mentioning as well, there's going to be all kinds of other factors in terms of weaponry. There's going to be other factors that it's basically non-disqualification. So Damage Control can run in and chain her to a rope where she can't reach Bayley. Like it may not actually be I've lost because I've actually been beaten up here. Like they've literally just outsmarted me, the numbers game. They've really kind of portrayed to us that Bianca's little clique has all been beaten up as well. So we may not even see them come the pay-per-view to come and like save Bianca. Yeah, and I feel like as well, you know, we talk about down the line, we've got War Games to send Bayley's troops in with all the gold plus another 2 members or another 1 person. I think that would just be good. And then maybe Bianca and her side of things can get their revenge in War Games because obviously they've really been beaten up this week, get their revenge there. And it doesn't really mean much because still Bayley and her people them have all the gold. So I think this could be the end for Bianca, but I am still on the fence-ish.
This is interesting because when I first saw they're, you know, having a feud, and then we eventually got, you know, there was officially going to be a match. I just straight away just thought, you know, Bianca's lost this. It's done with that. That run's done. Whatever. It's fine. It's Bayley. Bayley's come back. Big return. It makes sense. But given both your opinions and how it could go and where it's gonna go, I'm still like. But I love the fact that the common part of both of your opinions is that it's going to carry on and go into War Games, and then from War Games we're going to get another singles match between the 2 ladies. Regardless of who's champion, regardless of who wins, it works out to where that story makes sense, or that line makes absolute sense, regardless of who comes out as champion. That's going to happen. So. It should be very interesting to see. I guess for me now, it's kind of going to be interesting to see, one, how this match ends, what they do in the match, whether it's just a straight, you know, someone grabs the belt and whatnot, whether it be what Mick said, where Damage Control come in and, you know, chain Bianca to something, or send her through a table or through a ladder or whatever it is, or that kind of collateral damage. But then the War Games thing, it's not 3-on-3. We've seen this 3-on-3 that they've been doing for the last couple of months. There's at least 4 in each team. So I'm kind of wondering, I've got an idea maybe, but I'm kind of wondering who will be the 4th, possibly 5th person in each team. after what happened on SmackDown, possibly Shotzi on Bianca's side. But then with Bayley, they're not exactly friends with anyone else. Who else fits the mold?
As
I have an
WWE
idea
have,
too. So
okay, yeah.
No,
My
go ahead.
idea is, they've been using these celebrities and calling back older stars and stuff.
Okay.
This could be an opportunity for them to stick like a Trish and Lita on either side of the War Games teams. The only other suggestion, which might be Gerard's, is obviously Boston is where Survivor Series is going to be, and we know he's from Boston. So
yeah, so I have a couple of ideas. For one, if they decide to go 5-on-5, which makes sense, I see Triple H using this as an opportunity to insert NXT. And so I see Toxic Attraction perhaps standing beside Damage Control, which I think would be pretty epic. And then, of course, you have on Bianca's side, you have already Asuka, you have already her name Alexa Bliss. You would think Sasha and Naomi would be the sensible option here for Boston, which I'm going with. We might get into the fact of the whole name change that's officially happened on Twitter for Sasha, which has got a lot of people talking potentially. I think it's kind of a decoy on her part. I definitely think she's coming back, even though she's pursuing some other things. And I think the only big ticket reason right now for them to return at all in 2022 would be War Games. So I think you end up Sasha, Naomi joining the War Games team. And then you have a massive 5-on-5, which I think would represent the women extremely well.
Talking about the whole thing with Sasha changing her social media handles and stuff. I mean, she still makes reference to Sasha Banks, the character in WWE, in both bios on Twitter and on Instagram. So it's definitely not a thing where she's kind of said, "I'm done."
Right.
You know, I mean, we know that much. I posted about the whole thing and whatnot, and I said in the post as well that it's not clean cut or clear as to what she's going to do, or she's stopped wrestling and Sasha Banks is no more and all that kind of stuff. It's just her knowing how valuable her name is now, and that it's not just about the wrestling part. It definitely isn't. We clearly see that she certainly knows that, and she's certainly very confident in that. So this definitely isn't Sasha Banks is done. We can say that for a fact. So going back to War Games in Boston, it's a strong possibility, very, very strong possibility. It would be almost, it would be perfect for her to return in some sort of fashion in that place. But then, do you think Sasha returns in her hometown? Naomi does too. Does Naomi lose out on the big return because it's not her hometown? Everyone's gonna go crazy for Sasha, which is kind of like the usual thing, and Naomi's second fiddle, kind of.
People will go crazy regardless, man.
I think Naomi could return in Saskatoon and they would go crazy, right? Like I think she could be in the Ukraine and they would go nuts. I think literally they'd be in Sydney, Australia, and people would go belly up. I mean, like, I totally think wherever and whenever she returns, it won't ever feel second fiddle in any stretch of the imagination. And to think that Sasha and Naomi left together. And honestly, I think both of their stars have risen since being away.
Massively.
So huge, significantly. I'd argue that Naomi's done more in the mainstream light in these last 4 to 5 months than she has her entire career. So with that said, when they come back, yesterday's price will not be today's price. And they're going to come back and they're going to love them. People are going to love them.
It's gonna be crazy. I mean, we talk about them leaving together. I mean, almost everything that they've done since they've left together has been together as well. They've done the New York Fashion Week, they've done all the premieres, She-Hulk, and the Star Wars stuff, and all that kind of thing. So it's not like you know, Naomi's kind of just sitting at home twiddling her fingers and not knowing what to do next, while Sasha's using the stardom that she probably already had compared to Naomi. But you know, Naomi is who Naomi is on her own as well, and we've seen that in a very big way, as Gerard said, over the last 4 or 5 months. So again, I don't think it matters where they return. I guess the only difference is with it being very specific to it being Sasha's hometown. I guess that's why I asked the question. If it was just LA, I wouldn't be thinking the same. If it was any other Saskatoon or wherever you said,
Right.
I wouldn't be thinking that it literally is only because it's Sasha's hometown. But yeah, we'll see how they come back, when they come back. If this is how it is, it's a very good way to do it, because you give them that, you know, this whole surprise return and whatnot as well. But then at the same time, you're not putting them in a position where it's all on them.
Right.
Yeah.
You've got, you know, another however many ladies are going to be in the match, whether it be 10 altogether or 8 altogether. You're still going to have other ladies there to support them and not put all the work on them and all that kind of stuff. Time to rest and all that stuff. So, you know, there may be a bit of ring rust, who knows? But I know they've still been training and doing their stretching and flexibility stuff with, you know,
they have
different trainers and whatnot. So I believe they're ready. I'm ready for them to come back. I was ready like 4 or 5 months ago. So thanks.
Just to jump on the comments. Del Boy says Ukraine stand up.
Yes.
Big up Josie Chats Wrestling. He says Bianca is great but has held the belt for ages. If Bayley does not get the job done here, what was the point of the pinfall at Clash at the Castle? Which is
to get us to here, to be honest. There wasn't no reason at all. It's to get us to where we are now. I mean, not that it didn't have to happen.
Yeah,
because we still would have got, because there's a feud going on and whatever. But I guess it just stakes the claim that, right, I've done it now. You've got no excuse. You can't run away from me. It literally is, I've done what I needed to do in order to get my match. But given, like both of you said, even with the two separate opinions or the outcomes of the specific match, the ladder match, we're still going to get a run to where I believe there's going to be a second match between them, one-on-one, for that championship. Definitely. It can still happen. Whether that second match is Bayley having the championship and Bianca trying to get it back, it doesn't really matter what happens. You know, it could be the other way around and Bayley wins in the second match. You know, at the end, I think at the end of the day, come any type of second match for that championship between them, Bayley's champion.
Agreed.
That's it for me. Bayley's champion, regardless of what happens at this ladder match, whatever the second match is between them two, one-on-one, Bayley's won. Then if that doesn't happen, then I'll be asking what was the point. To a point, but yeah. That's it really.
Jonesy asks, do you think the ladder match will main event? I hope so. Both women are incredible.
I doubt it. I doubt it will main, as in the last match. I doubt it will be the last match. Then again, it could be because there's no.
It could be right. There's no Roman. There aren't any title matches, if my memory serves me correctly.
Well, so it's this and Liv's
except
match.
this one, and it's all women's titles matches, which is, I think, is interesting. I don't think they will put. I mean, it's Ronda, but I don't think Ronda and Liv will main event this.
Is what stipulation is that match?
That's an Extreme Rules match.
And that's the only reason I thought it might main event.
Might be last time because of that, possibly.
Now the flip side, like we said, the ladder match is historic, so it'll either be first or last.
Yeah, I believe
it'll
that.
Either be first or last.
Yeah, I believe that as well. I think the only other match apart from the two women's matches, the only other match that could be last is Seth and Riddle.
Because of the fight pit.
Yeah, because of the fight pit. Oh, actually, going into that very quickly, I saw just about an hour or so ago with Daniel Cormier being, I think, guest referee or whatever else, and there's talk of Brock supposedly having a match at Crown Jewel. There's a possibility Brock's going to get involved, and then it's going to be Brock and Cormier at Crown Jewel. So that could be a massive reason why that ends up as the main event.
I don't.
That's true.
Like, why would Brock get involved? I mean, I definitely think we might get Brock versus Cormier in Saudi, and I think they should learn their lesson from these fake MMA matches in WWE, because Velasquez and Brock was nonsense.
Horrible. Horrible.
But I don't know. I just don't see how Brock will work his way into this. But I think that's the outcome. I just don't know how we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
I mean, they've had their little thing before, Cormier and Brock. It could possibly be a thing where, I don't know, Cormier gets involved with one of the two of them. Brock just comes out.
Yeah,
sees an
don't know.
Get involved because he's.
I'm sure Triple H will make it very creative. That I'm sure of.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it could happen as well. We've seen it before where it's not so much they get involved in the match, but the match is done and then.
Right. After the match, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe Cormier is like taking applause from the fans and then Brock's music hits or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, that could be interesting. So, yeah, it's very interesting to see how this is going to work in terms of what's going to be the main event at Extreme Rules. It could be either of the ladies. It could be Riddle and Seth, but I can't see it being any other match at all, to be honest. Yes, that was those three for sure. Speaking of Extreme Rules, once again, there is no pay-per-view match for Bobby Lashley. Now, I'm scratching my head. Bobby Lashley's been all over Raw. He's having matches on Raw all the time. Is this on purpose in terms of trying to build this US title on TV, or are we seeing some kind of, not disregard, but that's the only word I can think of, I guess, disregard for this championship on a pay-per-view? Like, are we losing something here?
You know what I deep the other week, that obviously when Triple H came in power, he done the whole video package for the US title. And oh, am I here?
There we go. Okay, there we go.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. When Triple H came in charge, he built up the whole US championship picture and stuff, treated the belt really well. But we haven't advanced Bobby Lashley as a character.
Very true.
Like the belt looks good, and I feel like the belt is on a pedestal, but I don't feel like Triple H has put effort into Bobby Lashley kind of following it up that pedestal. And I don't know why he's not at the pay-per-view, or Gunter. Like, obviously Gunter not defending the IC belt, that is. And then they've went and put this second US title match on Monday, next Monday, on this season premiere of Raw. I can't help but think Rollins is about to pick up that US title.
Right.
Like, it's done for Bobby. It's curtains. Like, and I feel like the crowd were actually even more behind Bobby when Vince was in charge. And it feels like now it's like they're still cheering him, but it doesn't seem to be as roaring and crazy as it was since Triple H has kind of taken charge.
I think it's as you said, though, I think there is something missing in terms of Bobby's development. So yes, he's beaten Ciampa and it was a great match. Yes, he's beaten AJ Styles, a former champion, and all the rest of it, and the legend that he is. And yes, he's defended against The Miz anyway, and a few other people, but Bobby Lashley, the character, hasn't changed. There's been nothing that's happened. It doesn't. I don't even feel as though beating those guys has done anything for him. Whereas, if that was someone else, if that was, say, Riddle, for example, and he beat AJ Styles, oh my gosh, Riddle is this amazing guy now, and blah, blah, blah. And it's not to the point where Bobby Lashley is that far ahead. He actually isn't far ahead, further than AJ Styles. So him beating Styles should be a bit of a deal. But I haven't felt like that's the case. So, Gerard, what do you see a similar thing where Lashley is missing something, or the storylines are missing, or whatever else? Like, are you seeing something missing here?
So it's interesting. I have a different perspective. I think Lashley right now is very much the dominant champion that we've wanted him to be. So dominant that he doesn't need to randomly be in the ring and have conversations.
Right.
He's I think he has evolved to that space where it's just like, okay, I'm almost like Roman in the sense of Roman doesn't have to show up every week, but Roman is the dominant champion. And when Roman walks into a match, he's automatically the favorite, no matter who you put up against him.
But Roman comes with the charisma when he is there.
But here's the thing, right? I think Roman also is the world champion. Roman has the bloodline. And while he has charisma, there are other things about the bloodline that we like besides Roman. You know what I mean? I think we're in a space where, and honestly, I don't think they need a Roman on Raw. I think they need a dominant figure on Monday Night Raw who everybody's ultimately clamoring to ultimately get a chance to fight. To me, I think the most significant match he had was that win over Seth Rollins. Given Rollins has always been viewed as a world champion, and I think with even Lashley being the U.S. champion, people have almost forgotten that roughly this time last year he was the world champion, or he had just lost the world title to Big E. So he is in that top tier, and I think he's just at that point where they don't need him to be the character. He's a walking superhero. He's that guy. So when he comes in, he's gonna fight, he's gonna beat people up. And like even what he did last night, kind of basically giving Mustafa Ali a chance, And there was that point you saw in the match where the flip switched, or it flipped, and when it flipped, he threw him out the ring. He just got violent with him. Like it was just, but that's the Bobby Lashley. I don't know that we need him talking and giving us nursery rhymes and riddles and that stuff. I think we just need him to talk backstage when he needs to. Who's next? Who do you have me fighting against? And in terms of why he's not on pay-per-view, I think this is interesting. I think that both WWE and AEW have realized that while there is certain value on pay-per-view, there are more eyes on television.
For sure.
And so I think that's why, and I know we'll get to the tag title match that happened in AEW. I think that's why they saved that for then. And then I think that's why this U.S. title match isn't on Saturday, but on Monday, because on Monday is the big season premiere. So if you're on the season premiere, which they want to have ratings, and Roman's also going to be on the show, and you have the U.S. title match, I think honestly that says more about what they think of Bobby Lashley than having him on a pay-per-view, which, by the way, does not have Roman on it as well.
True.
Can I just ask a question, right?
Yes.
Like I completely agree with everything you've just said. And you made the point as to like he should just be maybe then kind of seeing backstage who's his next guy and whatever the case is, which I actually think is an interesting character for someone that is a former MMA fighter. It's like,
sure,
I went through this guy. Who have I got next?
Right.
All we really get from Bobby is him coming to the arena, leaving the arena, flash suits, what do you call it? Backstage interviews with Kevin Patrick. And this is maybe just where his character is probably getting a bit dull, because outside of being dominant in the ring, when we do see him on TV, this is literally all he's doing. But maybe if it's a case of, it's like, all right, he kind of takes it more as a fight. Right, I'm beating this guy. Who's next? Or who can I give an opportunity to next? Or he puts out an open challenge. And it is more like fight driven.
Right.
And to kind of still display that same dominance, just in a bit more of a proactive way. But right now, it's just very much, it's a bit passive, and maybe that's what I don't want to kind of speak for people, but it feels like we can't negate the fact maybe it's not him, maybe just Seth Rollins to them is just doing such a great job right now. They want to give it to Seth. Like it might not be anything to do with Bobby, but I just feel like his character hasn't been taken on that same journey that the US title has over the last few weeks.
For me, it kind of just feels as though that it's not Bobby that's holding the championship. It that sounds very weird, but in the sense where he's not the one making the matches, everyone else is making the matches to face him.
Passive.
It just feels as though I think this kind of very similar thing happened with him when he had the World Championship, to where it was about the challenger and not the champion. And I kind of feel it's a very similar thing. It's not about him. Yes, it's him holding the championship, but it's more so about, can Tommaso Ciampa defeat Bobby Lashley? Can AJ Styles defeat Bobby Lashley? Can The Miz, can Seth Rollins defeat Bobby Lashley? Not, can Bobby Lashley defend his championship? And I think for me, that is possibly the part that's missing, as well as Bobby as face just has never worked for me. I don't think it ever will. I just don't think it ever will. As much as the crowd's been behind him, and obviously it's working in that respect, for me, it just doesn't work. He's big, dominant, and he just has to be aggressive to me. And then because he doesn't possess that natural charisma, him being face just doesn't work for me. I need to see that aggression, that dominant, the more scary dominance, not just the I'm a big guy, very good at what I do type of dominance. And I think that's what it is for me. But we are where we are. He's doing the best he can. Again, the crowd's behind him, so he's doing something right. But on the total package, Bobby as face, I've never been a fan of it. Never been a fan of it. And I think that's what it is for me.
I genuinely think he's doing a good job this time round. And yeah, I just think, even just like we said, with that kind of more fight driven, like instead of Kevin Patrick every week, give him like little backstage press conferences like it is like UFC or something like that. And making him be like, yeah, I've just beaten up this guy, done this to him, right? I'm calling out my next challenger is going to be this person if they're going to be man enough to, and that puts him on the ascendancy, that puts him on the forward footing, rather than just kind of being a bit passive. Jonesy Chats Wrestling here, he's just said Bobby is losing US title on Raw to start him getting angry and turning heel. And Del Boy has said, I think they've left Bobby to just cook in the ring, but his programs have been boring.
Yeah. Here's the tough part, though. The tough part is fans are very, I don't want to say weird, right? But fans like, they are weird. So fans like for an underdog to win.
Yep.
They like to watch you chase a championship, but they don't like to see you dominant. If you are winning too much, then they turn on you. Then they get tired of you. So I think WWE has a tough, they're trying to balance a lot. They see the fans love him. If he comes off too confident, like, I'm going to beat whoever's next, and he keeps beating, after a while, they're not going to like him. It happens like that all the time. So I think that they're in a tough spot, because right now you don't have anybody that's physically dominating enough to make us even remotely think they can beat Lashley. Once Lashley got through Omos, and of course, we were all just kind of like, okay, this is a charity case here that Omos actually beat him once. But I mean, once he got past that, who else is physically dominant enough to really challenge Lashley on Raw? Nobody. So I think this is going to get interesting to see what they can do. I mean, Ali was a charity case last night. Ali obviously is a great wrestler, but against Lashley? No. So I think that's the tough part, is people don't like when you are too dominant for too long. Somebody in the chat just said that they said earlier that Bianca had held the title forever. She's only had the title since Mania. That's 6 months. It's 6 months. Excuse me. Yeah, no, it's 6 because it's October now. 6 months, half the year, and already you're tired of Bianca being champion. Like, this proves my point.
You're right.
It proves my point. If the people will turn on Bianca like that, and a year ago we were crying because, oh my God, 2 black women in the main event of WrestleMania. Oh, this is the greatest thing ever. And then earlier this year, we can't wait for her to get her comeuppance against Becky. And here we are now. I'm tired of Bianca. 6 months. That's all it's been.
I think the common denominator with the two of them, with Bobby Lashley and Bianca, is one, they're both faces. So when you get bored and when they're dominant, there's no cockiness to it. When you, like, you've got Roman Reigns, he's been champion for however many 7 million days, and he's cocky. So you're supposed to hate him. So when we hate him, that's what's supposed to happen. When we dislike a face champion, that's not supposed to happen. So then they're in a position, WWE's in a position where they're like, right, what do we do here? Then the other common denominator has been the stories or their booking, their programs have not been, I guess, complex enough to draw us in. You can argue Bianca's a little bit, but again, as we've been saying on this show for however many, probably years now, we need to see some kind of change in Bianca's stance and her attitude, in some kind of complexity in how she approaches these matches and her whole career. We've seen elements of it over the last 3 weeks. Her losing a bit of control, her losing, a bit of confidence and having to beat someone in order to kind of prove to herself that blah, blah, blah. That's nice, but that's after, as you said, 6 months. That's 3 weeks of 6 months.
Just moving on that quickly, yeah. Bianca and Bobby Lashley are the perfect candidates to become cocky because of everything they stand for and everything that they kind of portray themselves. They're the perfect people to kind of morph into maybe less low face, not quite heel, but just this tweener, arrogant, and just give them some edge. Like,
So guys, I didn't want to go here, but I have to.
Go for it.
Here's the toughest part of this entire equation. The toughest part of this entire equation is you have two very likable champions who happen to be Black, who you need to be able to appeal to a larger audience. Let's just call a spade a spade. The larger audience is not prepared for a super confident African-American champion. That is unattractive to them. And that starts turning into something completely different. So you have to figure out how do you navigate that? And it's funny because I think Bianca is probably the closest to the edge in terms of being confident and that kind of confident that we know about in the community, that you can be like, don't mess with a Black woman because this is what's going to happen to you. But she knows she can only go so far with that, because she still, when you see the folks who were in the audience singing her theme song, when they showed it on Raw, it was interesting. It wasn't just us.
No,
it was white women.
Yeah.
And so when you look at that, now it's like marketing. You have to appeal to a different kind of audience. And so you can only do so much. And so that I think is what's tough, is because for us, we like to say, look, just go out there and be fully you, right? Be that dude who's on the basketball court that's like, who's next? Because I'm gonna smash you, right? But does that appeal to that larger audience that puts them in a position to sell more merch, that keeps Bianca in the position to do DoorDash commercials and, be signed to WME and all of those places? Those are all of the additional factors. And so even think about, Naomi and Sasha, right? The things that they're able to do right now, they understand that they've got to appeal to a larger audience. So there are certain ways that they might feel and certain things that they might say behind closed doors that they aren't going to say in public, because they understand what's potentially on the line. So I think that's the other piece of the challenge that's really facing Bianca and Bobby Lashley, that given their status right now, it'll cost them money, it'll cost them status, and could cause the kind of turn that's more than a heel turn. And I don't think WWE's ready for that kind of smoke.
That's true. I want to see it. I mean, it's a tough one, and obviously you have to think about all of those things that you just mentioned. Sometimes I hate it when Gerard's right, because kind of just throws out everything I wanted to say. No, but at the same time, it is this thing where those things have to be thought about as well. But at the same time, it's a shame that we have to think about those things. Whereas if it's Seth Rollins holding the championship for too long, don't care. Doesn't matter. Do whatever you want to do. It really doesn't matter at all. But because they're Black, you have to think about oh, but what if we do this and then that happens? And what if we say this or they say that and then this happens and can't appeal to that person and you can't, you know, we have to broaden the market and so
it's exhausting. I agree.
It just gets tiring to want so much, but then realize that we can't have that because then we'll lose so much, man. But yeah,
which could explain the Jade Cargill cool down.
And that was literally where I was going next. That's literally where I was going next.
Let's go.
This whole thing with Jade Cargill. We've been saying it for a few months now that yes, she's still been winning her matches. Yes, she's still racking up the numbers when it comes to her undefeated streak. But in terms of her stock, or at least her, well, yeah, I guess her stock, probably not in the numbers and all that kind of stuff, but just in the way she's being used, the way she's being booked, all that kind of stuff. It just seems to be like, not that we don't, well, okay, we're kind of losing. We kind of don't care.
It's not her. It's not on her. Like, and this, obviously, we're just talking about, you know, relating to kind of marketing, and we can very much see that she is still very much out there and literally being paraded around all of these kind of hotspots with her TBS title. Like, so I think she's obviously, you know, just who she is, a heel in the ring and wrestling side of things, but outside she wants to be a very likable person. She gets the business. She was out here doing brand deals and this kind of stuff before wrestling, so this doesn't surprise me that she is front and center in this position. But the women's division is trash. The women's division is trash. And if you didn't hear me the first and the second time, the women's division is trash. The booking is just not where it needs to be, to the point where someone as dominant as Jade Cargill, they basically like ran out of competitors. On Rampage, they had to dig up Nyla Rose from Dark, because I don't know where Nyla Rose has been, as if she's not a viable contender to be on TV every week. Like, the way they've been booking this division, they're running out of options for the world title. They're running out of options for the TBS title. And when they
title.
Yeah, and when,
if you remember what that is,
well, when they start caring about this, then yeah, like I'm out here saying every other day that Jade Cargill needs to drop the title now. Let's just put it on someone else, just for maybe they can shake things up and it'll just be different. Not through no wrongdoing of Jade Cargill, but maybe the fact of the matter is her dropping it moves her to the world title, and then it's kind of more, you know, like apropos that it's the world champion doing all of these kind of public appearances and stuff like that. That division needs surgery. I don't know, man. It's just not the one, and it's so annoying, like, because they've got talent in there. They can't say like it's like before, like they were just maybe the Joshi women, and then a lot of kind of women that were like young in their wrestling experience and stuff like that.
Right.
They've got world beaters in there now. Like, just the booking just doesn't add up. Like, so,
and that is the most worrying part, is that the division itself on paper is so good.
Yes.
So good. Serena, Toni Storm, Thunder Rosa, Jamie Hayter, even throwing Britt Baker if you want to.
Athena has like in the last couple of months has come into her own. Like, she's now the Athena that we saw before.
Athena, even the younger kind of upcoming, I guess, their experience, but still kind of upcoming, like Penelope Ford, Willow
Nightingale. Yeah.
What are we doing? We're just gonna have this group of faces, group of heels, and we're just gonna fight every other weekend and see what happens and who cares and whatever else. And then you're just throwing some former WWE star who kind of doesn't make any sense yet at all. What are we doing?
Yeah. You know, I think this is it's been a very interesting summer for AEW. And I think it's just another one of those things to tack on to the ongoing AEW issues that are happening right now. You know, this women's division, I mean, it almost seems silly that there's a second championship there now. since there aren't even enough contenders for the first championship. And then why aren't we to believe that at this point, Jade Cargill, I mean, she's never been mentioned in the world title picture, yet she's the only undefeated woman there on their roster. Like, it doesn't make, think about this. At least WCW knew Goldberg is your US champion.
Right.
He's undefeated. It just makes sense to have him fight for the world championship. Right? Like, and everybody was there to see, wow, Goldberg is undefeated against Hogan. Like, it makes sense. To me, I don't understand why they won't mention Jade Cargill in the conversation with the AEW Women's World Championship. Why she has not been considered. Why you don't even have a scenario where either we merge the title or you have to give up the title to fight for the world title. But it makes no sense that the most popular woman in your company going on for a year has never been close to the world title. The idea is that the world champion is supposed to be the one out there making the TV appearances, going in and being the brand ambassador, doing all these things in the name of the company. That is not what's happening. And I don't know what else to tell them to do to make it work. I mean, think about, I mean, at All Out, you have your TBS champion in barely a 5-minute match against Athena, something we've been waiting to see all summer long. You know, two incredible competitors who could have given us a 15-minute match if we wanted it. They got 5 minutes, you know. And then here's what's crazy to me. Your big, the big to-do, the big reset in Grand Slam, all of the talk isn't about Jade and Jade's match, which, by the way, is on Rampage and not Dynamite. It's Jade and Trina. Trina?
Please.
With some unusual heel turn. And now, I mean, it didn't make
It feels like the TBS championship. It's almost like TBS is actually a separate wrestling promotion.
Right.
There's AEW and there's TBS.
Exactly.
Because as you said, Gerard, you know, it's this thing where there's like Jade doesn't exist in the all-round women's division in AEW. It's like she just doesn't exist. She doesn't mention the World Championship. No one else mentions Jade when it comes to the World Championship, or even on Dynamite when other people are having matches and blah, blah, blah. And we've kind of had this whole who's next, or who's going to face Toni Storm, or who's going to face Thunder Rosa when she was champion, and all that kind of stuff. It's always Britt Baker. And I'm just like, hold on. But yet this woman has been racking numbers in views at one point over the World Championship. Unbeaten for over a year, 38 matches, I believe now.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Are we waiting for her to get to 100 and then we'll say, oh, now she qualifies to challenge the world champion? Like, what are we doing?
It is silly.
And I like, and there's a little bit of hope for me in the fact that Nyla Rose is now involved. Nyla Rose brings this, you know, this charisma, and obviously she's been champion before. She's been AEW Women's Champion before, and all the rest of it. Their exchange just backstage the other day was great, as short as it was. Nyla and her little one-liners and all this kind of stuff. She's just amazing. It baffles me as to why she's on Dark and not on one of the other two shows on a week-to-week basis.
Someone that's a 2-time AEW Women's Champion,
right? I believe the only 2-time,
get me mad,
or one. No,
I think Shida was a 2-time as well.
The 2-time?
I think they're the only 2. Yeah,
only 2. Yeah, I believe so. I think
Shida's a 2-time champion as well. Yeah.
No, I thought Shida won it once. Had that one long reign. I didn't think she won it again. It was Shida, then Britt.
I'll check. I think she's a 2-time.
Thunder Rosa. Then okay. Well,
you know, she's a 2-time, and if she's not the only one, she's one of 2. And yet we're kind of only just mixing them together, and in a very, I guess, a random way. It's kind of random, but at the same time, with the way the TBS has happened, it's kind of like this open challenge type thing, so it's not that random. But then, where's this gonna go? It's not gonna go anywhere. Jade's gonna win again. Nyla's gonna disappear back to dark, and we're still gonna be kind of like, right, what do we do next? And I know there's this whole kind of, I guess, almost like an argument of, you know, at one point, Chris Statlander was going to take the championship from Jade, and now because she's injured, they had to redo blah, blah, blah. But come on, you've had more than enough time, more than enough chances. And regardless of whether Chris Statlander was in the picture or not, just give us get better content. Just give us better content. It's as simple as that. Just give us better content, regardless of things changing last minute and injuries happening here and blah, 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 blah. And it's just, and now Saraya's here and she's supposed
and we don't even know what capacity she's here.
Don't know why she's there.
I said this about Sasha Banks, and everyone was saying Sasha Banks should join AEW, and I'm gonna say it for Saraya as well. Saraya, like, I can't believe, for people that are so pro women's revolution, all of this kind of stuff, they are moving, or obviously in Saraya's case, she has moved over to AEW, and she's not in a capacity to try and fix this. Like, I'm not signing a contract with AEW if I'm her, if I'm not at least booking this division.
Right.
Like, otherwise, it's like, what am I doing? Like, I can't make noise about I was the women's innovator and revolutionist over here, and then this is what I'm joining. Like, because with all due respect, this is currently like the Divas division. Like, more than anything, like in terms of backwards, you know, in wrestling times. Like, she was that catalyst for the women's revolution in WWE. If she doesn't think she's going to get that same amount of opportunity or response, or literally just be handed the women's division and be like, right, fix this, then why would she have come and signed a 3-year contract? Like, I'm sure WWE could have given you money if that's what it is.
I you know, and to think your first revolutionary moment is a lumberjack match, not a lumberjill match, a lumberjack match, because we believe in inclusion. Like, I just, it's not good. And again, if we're gonna do some inclusion, let's include Jade Cargill. Okay, let's do that, right? Because for all of, and it's funny because you were mentioning about Bobby Lashley not saying, you know, who's my next competitor, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Why hasn't Jade asked about the world title?
Yeah.
Like, that's
that part. I just
that's
don't
the thing.
understand.
Like, you keep asking bring me some new competitors, how about bring me the world champion? Now that's the thing we can all get behind and go, okay, we've been waiting for this. But yeah, I just it is
okay.
They talk about this massive reset. They've got to reset everything at this point.
Oh, that's for sure. That's for sure. To kind of, I don't know if this is playing devil's advocate or trying to find some kind of defense for AEW, but we had Carmelo Hayes as the North American champion on NXT. And obviously he was doing the big thing of saying that he's the A champ. His championship is more important than the NXT World Championship. I know Jade has said a very similar thing when it comes to the TBS. Can that still be an argument at this point, or would that now be an excuse?
What do you mean? Sorry.
If Jade, because she hasn't mentioned the the women's world championship, and she's held on to this TBS, is she doing this whole thing where the TBS championship is more important than the women's championship because I'm holding it? Is that now an excuse?
But okay, come on. With your example, Carmelo Hayes' North American Championship felt more important than the NXT NXT Championship. I wouldn't say the TBS Championship feels more important than a women's championship. Jade Cargill feels the most important thing in the entire division. So with the belt or without the belt, I just don't think it works in that same capacity. She's just more important. She's eclipsed everything that's happening. And that's why we're saying, she needs to go after the world title at the very least.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I totally agree with that. And again, I think the reason the North American Championship appeared more important is because Carmelo was having 5-star matches. I mean, Carmelo and Ricochet. Like what the stuff Carmelo was doing with all of these guys was just really top tier. And I don't know that we've seen Jade do that, though Jade's personality is something where we're all getting behind. We're all, and again, in wrestling, it's a mixture. Sometimes you've got the in-ring ability, sometimes the charisma, rises higher. And I think in this case, as her in-ring is improving, her charisma just keeps blowing up. So it's just of course, let's do this. So it's funny. I almost thought I was starting to think that perhaps the reason she wasn't in the women's title picture was because she kept calling herself the B word and that type of thing. But then I thought to myself, remember that media scrum? I guess that's not really that big of an issue. So with that said, it nullified my own argument. So I don't know. I really don't know. But I will say this though, and this is gonna sound whatever, but Britt Baker using the B word feels and sounds different than when Jade Cargill does.
Well,
very true. And on that note,
I didn't want to be that guy.
No, it's true. I think there's even Jade. I still hate the fact that the majority of her promos are backstage.
Yep.
Like what are we scared of? Like put her out there. And even on occasions they put her out there. She's there with her crew. Obviously before Stokely was there or Mark was there or Tony Schiavone's there. It looks like she's being supervised. Like, bro, give her a mic and just let her do that thing. Like let her harass people. Let her be a terrorist and cuss the fans and whatever the case is.
Right.
Like she's a big woman. Like I just feel like there's just too much shackles on Jade, and it's almost they let the shackles off, let her become champion, this, that, and the other, and now it's like, okay, let's just hone it in a bit. But why? Like,
moving away just a little bit, but to where the shackles have come off, to where you've got grown men in the crowd, tens of thousands of men in the crowd, scissoring strangers. And even counting how many they can get before the end of the night. The Acclaimed are now the tag team champions in AEW. A great match that they had against Swerve and Keith Lee. Another match of the night, probably, with the two matches that they had. Just phenomenal stuff that we saw from both teams, and everyone loves the Acclaimed. And we are where we are, but where are we going? FTR, Mex himself, saw them in action in London over the weekend. FTR have been the number one contenders for like 20 years and still haven't gone for the championship. The Gun Club cut a very interesting promo. It was actually very good. And they seem to be the ones that will challenge the Acclaimed for the championship next, or if not next, they're the ones kind of in any type of program or storyline that may happen. We've seen them two go at it before. The Acclaimed kind of beat them in order to become number one contenders or within the picture of the AEW tag team championships, as Mick said.
Number one contenders.
Do we want to see this again? Or if not, what do we have?
I think just let the Acclaimed just have fun. That's what got them to the dance. Let them have fun. They've already defended the championship once on Rampage, which was quicker than Swerve and Lee got a defense. True. But just let them keep having matches and almost try to help play their part in rebuilding this tag division that's been hit with a lack of care. Then on the other side, obviously the trios championships are come and picked off a lot of guys from the tag division. So I think you just let them run with it for a while. FTR, I don't know, you guys probably saw it, which went viral following their match at the New Japan show in London. Dax took to the mic and said that, TK, we still work for you, book us. It doesn't look like they're going to get their AEW tag team title match anytime soon, unless he kind of shoehorns it into Full Gear, which is next month. I think the correct people to win this title from here should probably be Brody and Buddy Matthews, but I think Buddy Matthews is taking a bit of a break as well now.
Yeah, we said that.
So maybe Brody should probably just win the TNT championship, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought he was going to say he should win the tag team championships on his own.
Yeah, no, I just think that the Acclaim just need to just keep having fun with it, and then once they're ready to really do something or care about the titles by maybe putting it on the box whenever they come back, that's when that happens. But for now, I don't think it's a main focus.
That would actually be a great match, actually, the Bucks and Acclaimed. That would be a great match. We've seen them do it before, and this was earlier in Acclaim's kind of AEW career, and even that alone was great. So, yeah, it should be great. Gerard, I'm going to give you the final word of the show on this whole thing with the Acclaimed. Where do you think it's going? Where could it go? Where should it go?
So I think AEW has, again, booked themselves into a corner. When AEW began, there was such a stress on what tag team wrestling was going to look like. And, you had, think about that first round match between the Bucks and Private Party. And it was, hips, dips, and fingertips. Like, it was just flips everywhere. It was a level of and caliber of match that was like, wow. And so all these things happen. I think what you have right now in AEW is a problem. The reason FTR isn't getting a tag team title shot is, who's going to fight them?
Right.
Nobody's going to fight them. The closest people were either the Bucks or maybe the Lucha Bros, but Lucha Bros are trios champs. The Bucks are suspended. There's no Hangman and Kenny. So then you have this next tier of teams, which is part of the problem that I think Swerve and Our Glory had, was that they weren't looked at and viewed as the original kind of AEW template for a tag team.
Right. Yeah, right.
So they end up fighting and beating teams, but still not getting recognized. Like, people aren't talking about the match that they had just before they lost the titles with the Lucha Bros. Like, incredible match, but they weren't getting that. I don't think the Acclaimed is viewed that way in ring. I think the Acclaimed is just over. And because they're over, they've got the straps. So AEW is going to have to do one of two things: either rebuild the tag team division in the image of the Acclaimed, or find a way to have the Acclaimed ascend to the level that is the heavenly level, dare I say, that the Bucks and FTR live on. Yeah. That's what they're going to have to do. Now, who they feed them to do that in whichever direction they go is up to them. And I don't know who. That's going to be really, really tough, because I think I don't know that people in ring have taken the Acclaimed as serious as they have out of ring. But the Acclaimed remind me a lot of the rise of the New Age Outlaws, who were extremely popular with their introduction. And it took us a while before we believed in them as an actual tag team.
Very true.
So I think if the Acclaimed follows that and gives us some great matches and reasons to believe in ring that they are a force, then we've got an interesting thing. But what tag teams you feed them, that's the real question.
That is a very, very real question. I mean, as you said, for me, there's no Bucks, there's no FTR. Essentially, there's no Lucha Bros because they're trio champions.
Right. You've got no SCU anymore. Like, all of the teams that could have been there.
House of Black, right? Matthews taking time off. It's just sparse and scarce. There's Private Party. There's no Top Flight really.
Right.
Varsity Blondes, not necessarily championship.
No
material at all. No Jurassic Express, who used to be tag team champion. There's literally one left. Lee Johnson and Brock Anderson.
Just to end on a positive, there was a really well put together video of these guys' ascent of I saw it on Twitter, so I'll try and find it if I come across it again and send it to you guys, of when they first debuted on Dark. and
So
coming out, and nobody knew who these guys were. Their music was different. The raps wasn't landing from Castor. Even what's his face, Bowens at that time didn't really know his role within the entrance while he was doing the raps, and then it literally showed like 6 months upon 6 months of how they built, and then people were at least booing them, and then they came out. Then obviously the stuff with the gun club happened. The gimmick became what it's become with all the scissor stuff, and then the entrance at Grand Slam and the roaring crowd. And you know what? Well done to them. Even if this is just, you know, like we say, they don't ascend to that higher level of tag team performance like the Bucks and FTR. Like this is pretty much the story that you hear. These guys are never supposed to reach this point.
Right.
Yeah, well done to them and what they.
I think just to the last comment. I think it's very similar to what we've said about Jade, to where they're in this position and have done what they've needed to do, but then now maybe because of booking and because of things around them, it's not them. It's not them. It's not their fault. It's not them lacking in something. And even if they do lack in certain places, it's not. You know, that's not going to be the reason why they don't ascend or why they can't be bigger than they are. They've done what they needed to do. They've ascended to where they needed to be and put in the hard work. But now they're at a point where the booking is going to be way more important to what they do. You know, the hard work they put in and what they do in the ring and outside.
They need their management to help them now.
Exactly.
Yes. They've done their bit.
It's not on them. Yeah, they've done their bit. It's now management that has to do the rest of it in order to build everything around them to be bigger. Guys, on that note, it is our time. Our time was done 6 minutes ago. But it's all good because we love to talk, and I don't mind that at all, even though I've got to run off and go places. This is WrstlXtra you've been watching on the WrestleMania UK YouTube channel. Make sure you click like, subscribe, comment, share, all that good stuff. Click the notification bell because Mex is the hardest working person here, and you'll get to see interviews with Bianca Belair. You'll get to see him at New Japan's Royal Quest. That show was crazy. I watched the highlights and all the rest of it. And the rest of things, guys, are just like entertaining, even behind the camera, and their comments and all the rest. It's madness. It's madness. Go and watch it if you haven't already. Also, guys, this guy here is Gerard Bonner. Catch him on the Faction Show. Catch him on Battle Slam. Catch him
commentating with Caprice Coleman.
Come on.
Crazy.
And also Southern Honor Wrestling and every other place you can find this guy. He's everywhere as well. You can follow me, of course, on Black Wrestling Alliance on Instagram, BWA Dazzle on Twitter. Guys, this has been our time. We are done. I need to go. These two need to go. Let's just go. See you later, folks.